Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Two Wavy Girls on the Internet. I am one of your hosts, Allison Lupo.
And I'm Swavy Curly Courtney. We celebrate all things wavy curly and wonderfully real.
And we play around with all the products and read the back of the bottle so you don't have to. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this live recording of our podcast. It's one of our favorite things that we do every single week. And so we are so glad that you guys are here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm excited too. Today we are diving into some really fun stuff, mainly frizzy frustrations. We're going to cover the causes of frizz and the solution to that specific frizz cause.
It's all about frizz today. And this is a big one, I think, for so many wavies and curlies. I was chatting with one of my clients at my hair studio today in Dallas, Texas, about frizz. And the first thing out of her mouth was, I just think about wet frizz when I think about frizz. And I thought that was so interesting. So I thought maybe we would talk about what is frizz to begin with. What are some of the causes of it? And you guys, when you have questions about frizz, please pop them in there. We want to be as amenable to answering as many questions as we can, because we know this is a big subject for so many of you. And then we can talk about solutions as they may exist to some kinds of frizz, if you want a solution to frizz, because remember that frizz is also functional. So these are the things that I think about with frizz. What about you, Courtney? What do you think about in regards to frizz and how to structure this conversation?
I think that there are very specific causes for different types of frizz. And like you said, there is functional frizz. And I am very opinionated about frizz. So
I love it. I am too. This will be fun. Okay, should we start with what is frizz? Do we want to provide an overall definition of frizz?
Yes, I'll go first.
Go first.
In Courtney's definition, frizz is any hair that is not clumped together with its curl family. It's a hair that's standing all on its own. And when too many hairs separate from the curl families, the overall effect within the hair is a frizzy look.
I love that. And mine is very similar to that, my definition. The way I described it to my client was today, it is a hair that is doing something that the other hairs around it are not doing.
Yes.
And then multiply that by many of those, or just a few of those. Honestly, to some people, a frizz can be like two hairs doing something. If people are very frizz sensitive, if you got two hairs doing something, they're like, and they have a coarser or stronger or thicker or darker hair type, you got two hairs doing something, they're like, oh, frizz, so you have those that are very sensitive to that. Frizz can be, I guess we can talk about causes a little bit in that vein. It can be as much as like, let's say you have layers in your hair. You have little curl families that are cut into what I consider layers, right? Let's say you have some sticky outy layers because the way your hair, like I've got some that kind of stick out in a curve. Others may have some, depending on their curl pattern, that stick out to the side. That to them could be frizz, especially if they're very sensitive to that particular look. So one of the questions that we've just gotten is, do you think that diffusing causes frizz? I think that diffusing can cause frizz. So let's jump into the causes of frizz. Should we start with diffusing? What do you think about diffusing? Is diffusing potentially a cause of frizz?
It can be. It's one of the factors. I have a bunch of different factors that can cause frizz. First and foremost, the one that we're probably the most familiar with is humidity. As soon as the dew points get really high, there's a lot of moisture in the air, the hair puffs. Think Monica Geller from Friends. Like that.
No definition, just absolutely giant bubble of hair around your head.
Then another cause could be dryness. So, and when I say dryness, I mean you touch your hair and you say, my hair feels dry. It's a lack of conditioning that causes the hair cuticle to lift and create that frizzy, fluffy look because there's no conditioning or moisture in the hair.
So the causes of frizz I'm hearing you describe are ones that would be more in the longer parts of the hair, like ears down, right? So like in your ends, in your mid shaft of your hair. What about that halo frizz? I think there are so many causes of the halo frizz that can be hair that has maybe some product buildup on it, it's gotten a little bit sticky. You can see that in the length of the hair as well, but I think that's most visible up at the top of one's head. Like, so when I say halo frizz, if you're envisioning this, it's going to be above your ears. It's going to be the very top of your head. That's what you're going to see, right?
Yep.
I also see that, especially in my clients with stronger or coarser hair types, when they have new hair coming in. And I tell them, no, we have to be grateful. Welcome, new babies, especially if they've gone through a phase where they've lost a lot of hair due to getting on new medications, or they started Nutrafol to grow more hair, or they had a baby and now they've got new hair growing. And there's so many reasons that you might skip a growth cycle. You lose a bunch of hair and then you have a bunch of hair come in months later, all at the same time. So that frizz can stand straight up and welcome me to the world. I'm 3 months old, and it's standing straight up. So that can be a big part of frizz. So new hair, sticky
or
buildup, frizz.
Damage and breakage.
Absolutely. You can have breakage up there too if they've been brushing or the hair is just really delicate, from past trauma to the hair, from using a straightener, using smoothing products, relaxing products. All of those things can cause breakage up at the top, kind of in the middle, down at the bottom, you name it.
Yep. So what would be the solution to those causes of frizz? New hair babies. What do? You say, welcome, new hair babies. And for me personally, the trick that I used, because I was doing the whole curly girl thing when I was pregnant with our daughter. She was born, and then 4 months later, whoosh, all my hair fell out. It was great. Then those short baby hairs start growing in. I figured out a trick that worked to protect those specific hairs as they grew out.
I'm dying to hear this. Go.
Straight castor oil. It's thick and it's sticky. Now, there is a trick to it. You don't just like glob the spoolie into the castor oil and spoolie castor oil into your hair, or like smear a glob of castor oil. It's really rich. It's really sticky. It's really thick. It's heavy. You get the teeniest little dot on your finger, smooth it out in your fingers, and those hairs that are sticking straight out, you grab them, just those hairs that are sticking out, the very tips, with your coated fingers, and then the ends are coated in castor oil. You smooth them down. That castor oil makes those sticky hairs stick to the rest of your hair, so they're not standing straight on end, they're laying down. But you didn't put any on your roots, so your roots don't look greasy. You just barely grab the ends.
So brilliant. And the reason I think it's so insanely great too is that you're also almost training those hairs from day one to be like, hey, here's the curl family that you belong in. Here's the curl family you're going to belong in. And you're almost like taking little pieces of them and tucking them in. That is such a great solution. I am stealing that from you 100%, because my solution with my clients has been, make sure that if you do nothing else, that obviously I tell everybody, because I'm the conditioner lady, use leave-in conditioner, but make sure with those new baby hairs, you are getting you're getting some on them, because at the end of the day, your goal for those new little baby hairs is to grow long and strong. So that's you want to. Reason
I really love the castor oil is it really protects and seals, for a better word, for lack of a better word, seals those ends and protects them as it grows out. But also mitigating some of the problems with putting oil so close to your roots.
Totally. And I could see that being a good solution kind of earlier on, but I would say make sure that you get that leave-in conditioner probably on those ends sooner than later, because just for a sciencey reason, you want to pH correct the water that's on that hair. So just to get a little bit sciencey for a brief second, remember that water sets the pH scale neutral at 7. That is your regular old tap water that you're washing your hair with, okay? So you want to use a leave-in conditioner that will close that cuticle, keep the hair healthy, because it's going to live at a pH of about 3. So when that mixes with the pH 7 water on your hair, it gets it right to where our skin and hair naturally lives, which is about 4.5 to 5.5. We're a little bit acidic, so that keeps it where it should be. And then that castor oil on top of it is like, and now lay down and find your little gel prison. Find where you should live. I love
down, boy, down.
Yes, down, boy, down.
Usually when I'm putting the castor oil on my hair, it's after I've scrunched out the crunch and fluffed my roots, and then they stand up and I'm like, nope, we're going to grab you, make you sticky, and you're going to lay down.
Now,
Allison,
what are your solutions? Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I am so curious about your opinion. I have had people ridicule me in the comment section on the internet, as they do, because it's the internet.
I love that.
About taking conditioner all the way to my roots. When I'm shampooing and conditioning, I actually flip my head forward and I use a really gentle brush, one with super bendy bristles, like a wet brush. And I brush my conditioner from root to tip. Like I bring that conditioner all the way up. And my thought process there, like regular standard rinse out conditioner, or if I use the new wash, obviously it's very conditioning, so it's going all the way to the root. But getting a standard rinse out conditioner all the way to my roots. What are your thoughts?
You're a standard rinse out conditioner all the way to your roots? Absolutely. 100%. Now, I say that being of a person, and we're going to hopefully have some time to dive into our own hair analysis after this, but being a person that has supposedly back in the day about 60% coarse hair, if you can believe it. I don't really identify as a coarse hair having individual because my hair feels, to me, it feels fluffy and light and smooth. And so I hesitate to put too much leave-in conditioner, which is different from our rinse out conditioner, on my roots. So if I was someone with a truly fine, almost translucent, delicate hair type, I might hesitate to get rinse out conditioner all the way at my roots. And I have a number of clients with that kind of hair type that will tell me it makes my hair so weighed down. So my advice to them is, I still want you to get conditioner all the way up there, but let's opt for a much lighter conditioner. They might even use a leave-in conditioner as their rinse out conditioner because those tend to be formulated to be less sticky. So I do in a rinse out conditioner like to make sure that hair is saturated from root to tip if that works for that person. And I'm not the one who lives with everybody else's hair day in and day out. If they know something is not working for them, I would encourage them to not do that. Do what you know works for you. But if it's just that heavier conditioner, try a lighter conditioner to rinse out.
Very cool. For sure. So what would be another cause of frizz? You touched on it.
And so we talked about sticky buildup here on the inside. It can also be the way the hair is cut. If it is cut in a way that the hair does not like. Some hair, I prefer to taper ends of the hair when I cut them. That's a cutting style that I like because I find otherwise it can leave the ends too chunky. And so where the layery bits are cut in, you can have hard lines all over the hair, but some hair does not like being cut that way. Some hair prefers to be cut in a chunkier way. And I can't explain to you why. Sometimes it is a figure it out as you go. Sometimes you can just tell from feeling the hair, but some hair can look a bit frayed if you cut it in a more tapered manner. What to do about all those kinds of frizz? Like, what would your solutions be for the buildup frizz, Courtney, or for the frizz in this area down here around your ears?
Buildup is one of the easiest causes of frizz to fix. And it's one of the things that I tell people to check first if they're feeling that their hair is overly frizzy. And my formula for fixing that is to use a clarifying shampoo and then deep condition with a heat cap, like with heat, for 15 to 30 minutes. And which clarifying shampoo you pick does matter because the type of buildup that you have. If you suspect that you have some sort of like oil buildup, it's a sticky product, perhaps you've been using a ton of products that contain shea butter or what's that other one?
Mango seed butter.
Mango seed butter, super heavy, just like big, heavy butters. And you suspect that you're dealing with oil buildup or silicone buildup. If you continue to use products with silicone, using a clarifying shampoo that contains a sulfate is the best for that specific type of buildup. If you're dealing with polyquaternium buildup, which is a humidity blocking ingredient found in a lot of gels, because like we're curly girls and we're trying to block humidity, in order to remove that, turns out that my personal favorite surfactant, sodium C14, C16 olefin sulfonate, is the best clarifying surfactant for that. And you know you're a curly hair nerd when you have a favorite surfactant. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
And then the last kind of buildup, which tends to make the hair feel really dry and brittle and almost crunchy, straw-like, is hard water buildup. And for that kind of buildup, you need to be using a specific chelating shampoo or chelating shampoo. It's a hard water shampoo. It's formulated specifically for hard water. It's going to bind to the magnesium and calcium deposits on your hair and chemically bind to them and rinse down the drain so that it's being removed. How would you remove buildup, Allison?
I love all of those solutions. I think those are tremendous. I do find, I think the more that I spend chatting with my clients one-on-one and in situations like this, when I start to talk about if you think it could be this or if you think it could be that, because like I think you and I are so similar the way we think, Courtney, it cracks me up. Sometimes I do wonder if we're related. So I'm like, okay, when I start talking about if you suspect this or you suspect that, I watch their eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
Now, some of them, there are the nerdy, sciencey ones like us that are really into it. And they're like, well, it could be this and it could be that. And I'm like, yes, you understand. Like, if we get into those kind of conversations. But for those that are just like, I don't know what to do, just tell me what to do.
Sulfate
Most of the time, pardon?
Most of the time, just grab a sulfate shampoo. That's it.
Just grab a sulfate shampoo. Generally, though, I am finding that, especially if they're my clients, and so they are using products that I already know are not buildup prone, because I don't sell anything that's buildup prone. I don't want to do it. I don't want to even introduce that into anyone's lives. So I will tell them, just use like this Innersense pure shampoo and shampoo twice. It is sulfate free. It is olefin sulfonate free. It's all the things. But I find that it will, if they shampoo twice, then they don't have to deep condition, because they're more likely, they say the best beauty products that you have are the ones you will use, right? Yeah. So if they don't have to buy an extra thing, they don't have to do an extra step. Yes, I would love it if they would do that and they would deep condition for 20 minutes with a heat cap. I would love it if they would do all of those things. If they would do all of those things, they would springboard their healthy hair journey in ways that would be a shock to them, right? And you and I have done that, so we know. But at the end of the day, most people are like, I just am not going to do that. It's not a hobby to them like it is to us. And so I have like sort of backed down to saying shampoo twice with the thing you have. If you notice a difference, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Next wash day, shampoo twice with the thing you have. Now, if the thing that they have is also full of the oils and butters, if it's one of those shampoos that's very moisturizing, I'm going to let them know, hey, that's the thing that might be the culprit. Like, that's the problem. That's not going to provide you with a solution. You at least need something with some mild surfactants in it of some kind and without all the oily, buttery things in it. So that's when we have a conversation that's more about, okay, the Innersense, for example, pure shampoo. It's one of the only shampoos that I sell at my salon because I truthfully hate most shampoos. Mm-hmm. That's a great one to reach for, to shampoo twice with, because it's gentle. I also really like the AG gentler curl oriented shampoos that they've come out with in the last couple of years. I can't remember the name of it all off the top of my head all of a sudden, but I think I have it.
Fresh?
Yes, Curl Fresh. Maybe that might be right.
I have found that particular shampoo to be really clarifying.
It is pretty clarifying, but it's nothing compared to like a Suave Daily. The Suave Daily clarifying big guns, in my experience, is not that.
My experience does not line up with that.
Really? Tell me more.
Well, I personally found that when I used the AG Curl Fresh shampoo, I really liked it because I like a very clarifying, cleansing shampoo. It made my hair feel more squeaky clean than the Suave Daily Clarifying Shampoo.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I haven't had that particular experience, but I will say that if I do use that shampoo on my clients, that's my Clarify. That's when when I'm working with their hair and I'm getting a lot of like, you're working with buildup frizz. When you run your hands through your hair over and over again, you almost get like a lotiony, like sticky substance on your hands that will ball up, or you can just feel it and you have the urge to like wash your hands after that. Yeah. So if you've got buildup frizz, what Courtney and I are saying is get a Bigger Guns shampoo, see if you're on the right track. If you find that you're like, oh, that feels better, maybe you should deep condition afterwards. That would, I think, be both of our recommendations for sure. Yeah.
I personally double cleanse every time I wash my hair, but I have very fine, low porosity hair that is excruciatingly prone to buildup. So like what you're telling your clients to do to correct the issue is something I do every time I wash my hair, just as a like standard practice.
That's okay. Remember that the one thing I learned, and since you were going to cosmetology school, I am so glad that you will get to work with so many more kinds of hair in person. Like your mind is going to be blown when you realize that, like, wow, this person lives with that kind of hair day in and day out, and that is their reality. Like you learn that different people, like if I double cleansed my hair every single time, I would look like I stuck my finger in a light socket. Like it would be a totally different world for me. And that would be the same for some of my clients, but for some of my other clients that have hair more similar to you, I would absolutely recommend that to them.
I love that.
It's very interesting. Again, the cause is a frizz. Dry hair because I stuck my finger in a light socket and I over cleansed it, or product buildup because I'm trying to make up for something. And then, of course, there's wet frizz. So we're going to talk about functional frizz here in just a minute.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. But functional frizz, we'll come back to that. Wet frizz, I had to touch on this because my client specifically was telling me about this earlier. Courtney, are you familiar with this idea of loop-de-loops in hair? Do you know what loop-de-loops are? Okay. I don't know of any other industry term to describe the loop-de-loops. So if you have something to add to this, please help me out. I think of it on my more tangle-prone clients as being a way that hair, like a little family of hair, or maybe even a single solitary hair, gets tangled up in the web of other hair, and it's just a single loop. It just makes a full circle all the way down. And on wet hair, you can see these loop-de-loops wind their way all through the hair. A couple of things. Number one, you don't actually have to fix all of those. A lot of the time, I tell my clients to trust the mess. And they're like, the ones that are tangle prone will be like, what? Trust the mess? Like, you want me to leave this like this when it's drying? Because their inclination is to take a comb and comb through it and get rid of all those loop-de-loops, get rid of every tangle, make sure that every hair is aligned. But in doing so, they end up with thinner curl families and potentially more frizz and a very like 80s looking skinny curl kind of vibe. When you trust the mess and sometimes leave those loop-de-loops, I will tell you one secret for the loop-de-loop though. If you take a wide tooth comb, just the end of it, like one little prong, and put it in that loop-de-loop and pull it down, you just release it. So if you have some in the front that you can see, you want to pull those out that way, be my guest. The ones on the back of your head are none of your business. Just leave them back there. You don't have to see them. Ignore them. I promise they won't be a problem. But if you leave the loop-de-loops and you trust the mess and you scrunch in your products anyway and you diffuse it, you might be surprised at how that hair comes out. Less frizzy. So there's the kind of overcombing problem, and there's the sometimes doing too much. That's my take. What are your thoughts?
I have nothing to add. That was amazing. I love that.
You know about the loop-de-loops. We will make it an industry term.
I have heard them lovingly referred to as fairy knots. That fairies.
I think that is when a loop-de-loop does collapse on itself.
And turn into an actual full-blown knot. But it's like a little fairy came in there and tied a cute little knot in your hair.
One little hair and you're like, how does that even happen? And more than likely, let's talk about this as a cause for frizz. You need a haircut.
Yeah.
You need a haircut. I don't recommend going for more than 4 months without a haircut if you can stand it. 4 to 5 months seems to be the maximum for very many people. All right, I know you had popped up a question. We had a good question. I feel like we should answer a few at this point. I saw something about functional frizz. Okay, Karen, said functional frizz. Interesting. So this brings up the question, do we actually need to do anything about the frizz? And sometimes the answer is no, not really. Maybe you want to use that frizz to create more volume in your hair, because remember that a hairstyle of nothing but definition all day long, if that's your vibe, go for it. But if you don't have a lot of hair, Remember that every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. So if you are someone who doesn't have a lot of hair, you are sacrificing volume for definition. It's a trade-off for most people. It's those unicorns that have a lot of hair with enough texture that they can get away with the definition and with the volume, but that's not all of us.
I say functional frizz is functional in the fact that it does make your hair look more full and it gives it some root lift. I tend to be volume impaired because I personally am shooting for max definition. That is what makes me happy, to see these super defined spirally bits. I'm going to have to adjust to the brushed out look that is in for 2025.
I want to see you brush out your hair just one time. Come on, let's do it.
You know what? Final episode. We'll do it live.
Yes.
Y'all have to come back for that.
Okay. You promised, y'all.
Like
hold your feet to the fire.
But I feel like functional frizz is proof that your curls are natural. They're proof that they're yours and not created by a heat tool. So if there will always be some amount of frizz, no matter how perfect the wash day.
That's true. And because again, it is normal. It's kind of like those, not really memes, but those things that people would post that would talk about how like skin has texture, and they would show the skin like up close. And it was like, look, pores, look, a hair. I mean, come on, like that's real life. And sometimes max definition can make hair look fake. And that's not necessarily bad if that's what you're wanting and you feel comfortable and confident that way. But just know that a little bit of frizz is totally fine, and it can function in terms of giving you, like, I like less definition. If I have a wash day that's too defined, I will take my pick to it and like get after it, because I really want way more hair than I have. Yeah. So I'm constantly like fluffing and trying to make it bigger, and taking my hands and running them up my hair shaft in a way that will give me like a fluffy sort of Stevie Nicks-ish vibe, because I like that, but not everybody does. And the other thing I want to touch on is that someone had asked earlier, can using a hair dryer, using a diffuser, give you more frizz? Absolutely. I think that diffusing can cause frizz if you use your dryer in a way that is directing the airflow up into your hair cuticle, which would be holding like the diffuser up towards the sky rather than sort of aiming it down towards the ground, because of the way your hair cuticle is formed and just because of maybe layers you have cut in, you're blowing your hair up. So yeah, definitely diffusing creates volume, and volume often comes from frizz.
Amen. Absolutely. I have started doing this really different kind of weird diffusing technique wherein I'll plop my hair in my towel. I'll take the towel off and there will be a damp spot. I set my diffuser on my counter and I flip my hair forward. I scoop up the ends of my hair with the damp part of the towel. So it's kind of like a little hammock or hammock diffusing. And then I just kind of sit there and chill with my head right in front of the diffuser sitting on my counter. And I'll move to the side and scoop my curls that way. The ends stay so damp and like together and collected, but the rest of my hair forms a cast, and I'm alleviating the weight of the water. So my hair is encouraged shrinkage, you know.
How long do you do that? How long do you leave it that way?
About 5 minutes at the most. And then a really nice cast is formed. And then I turn the dryer down and pixie diffuse the rest of the way and get my ends dried at the end.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's not a super long time to do that.
Mm-mm.
No, that feels manageable. That feels doable.
We're not doing this for an hour. No. This is quick because the airflow really moves around every curl that way. It dries fast.
Do you remember the early days? Maybe, yes, you know where I'm going with this, like 6 or 8 years ago. Yep. Y'all, Courtney and I have been doing this wavy curly thing for a long time, almost a decade for me, which is bonkers. But how long for you, Courtney? You started doing all this stuff in like 2017?
18, close.
18. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's been a minute for us. There was a time when everybody went nuts about, one of those was drying upside down with nothing but cold air for like an hour. I
And
can't
you'd lay on
imagine.
your bed, you'd put your towel on your bed, and you'd use that Diva Curl hand cloth thing diffuser. And you basically sit with your hair on your bed for 10 years and you're bent over in like downward facing dog. That sounds really terrible.
10
But
years is not an exaggeration. That is just actually accurate.
yeah,
Who was it that started this? It was an influencer. I can't remember her name. I want to say it started with an S. She lives in Alaska.
yes. I
And
can't remember
yes, and
her name
she went like
either.
viral for posting this routine. It was
Yeah.
like her one and only YouTube video. And I was in shock. I'm sure you were too, about other people are trying this. This is horrible. I would never torture myself that way. But she had beautiful hair.
She did.
Yes, but she avoided frizz at all costs while drying her hair. So yes, does diffusing cause frizz? I think Courtney and I have definitively answered this question. Do we have any others that we want to answer?
We'll cover this one real quick. Curl retention remains my biggest challenge. I'm using my hardest hold gel and protecting overnight. So it sounds like we're dealing with wash day retention, day 2, day 3. The curls are not holding, and she's trying to figure out why.
Okay, well, I have a lot of questions and I have a lot of thoughts. I'll start with questions. Number one is you're using your hardest hold gel and protecting your hair overnight. That is wonderful. I want to know if you're washing at night. I find that if you wash at night, and I have a whole video on this from a bazillion years ago. I think it's called Sleeping in the Crunch, which I thought was funny at the time. So if you are washing and diffuse drying your hair at night, and then you are sleeping on it, I'm assuming that you're getting your hair 120% dry, which if you are, then curl retention and you're not scrunching out your cast and then you're protecting overnight and sleeping with that cast on, curl retention generally should not be a problem unless your hair is very fine. And so kind of crunching it against your pillow, it's just really prone to the curl being distorted because you're pushing on it. So there's pressure, but there's also heat from your head. Those two things can really change how the bonds in your hair are lined up. So if you are not getting your hair 120% dry, then those bonds just were not set yet in your hair, because it actually takes a much longer time for all the bonds in your hair to complete set, even after you have determined, gosh, it really does feel completely dry. Those things are all still forming. And that's why using a gel is so important, because it protects those, and I don't mean like a gel anytime like at night, but even a gel during the day. It protects those curl families in the shape that they are in, so that as your hair continues to dry and basically cure like a nail polish, all those bonds set with time. So it could be an issue of your hair is not quite dry enough. And if you're using a hard hold gels are generally a lot thicker. And so they add dry time. So you could be sitting there with a gel that's added dry time, but your hair feels dry to you. So you go to bed, but it's still wet on the inside of those curl families because it hasn't cured from outside to inside. I don't know if curing is a term that people generally use when they're referring to the dryness of hair, but I think it makes total sense. So I'm going to make it a thing right now. And that would be my advice would be, if your hair is just really, really fine, that's going to happen. You're probably better off washing and styling in the day if the most your hair can curl is really important to you. Otherwise, if you're styling at night, really make sure it's 120, 150% dry and cured all the way through. What do you think, Courtney? What are your thoughts around
Totally
that?
agree. And I sneakily picked this question because it leads me into the next cause of frizz, which is product. If you are not using enough of your styler, the hair will float out of its curl family. Even the hardest hold gels in existence. Like example, my beloved Briogeo Curl Charisma. I don't know what is in this thing, but I love it.
I need to use that one. I've not really experimented with Briogeo quite enough. So cool. Good to know.
If you're not using enough, there's not going to be enough product in your hair to help hold the curls in their curl families. You're going to be dealing with frizz. If you are using a super hard hold gel, and I have used some before that are crazy hard hold, that is heavy It's going to weigh your hair down and elongate those curls and actually pull them out of their curl families. Even if it's a super hard hold gel that gives you a crazy great cast, it could still be weighing down the hair, elongating the hair. And if you're using way too much, you're going to weigh down the hair as well. So there is this balance of using the right amount of product for your hair. And Allison, I don't know if I've asked you about this specifically. I want to know what you think. I have also been ridiculed relentlessly in the comment section on the internet for suggesting that people keep teaspoon measurers in their shower so that they can get consistent amounts of product every single time they wash. That way you can tweak and dial into the exact right amount of product that works for you and your hair. So like measure out a teaspoon of gel, glaze rope scrunch that into your hair, diffuse it to 100% dry, assess the results. Next time, grab 2 teaspoons of gel, see what that did. And that way you're not guessing when you squirt a blob of gel into your hand. And the only reason I know that I am inconsistent with how much product I'm grabbing is that I film myself washing my hair for the internet a lot. And I swear there was this one day I stuck my hand in the jar to scoop out some product and I thought I got the teeniest smidgen. I watched the footage back. I grabbed half the jar. What? But like in the moment, I didn't think I did. So I was like, okay, I need to measure this. And when I did, that is when I was finally able to dial everything in. I know it seems ridiculous, but after washing and styling your hair 100 times, eventually you get really good at sensing the amount of product that's in your hand. And then you don't need to measure anymore, but it's kind of like training wheels.
I love that for so many reasons I can't even begin to tell you. So I'm over here like trying to not snort laugh my way through this podcast while you're over there talking about that, because there have been so many times I have gone back and watched my own footage from YouTube videos I've made and gone, oh my God, look at that big chunk of foam that I had over on the side of my head. I had no idea that was there. And I think that there is so much power in seeing yourself from the outside. And so I am not encouraging everybody to go and film themselves in the shower, because that's a weird thing only people like us do. Don't go do that. Number one. Number two, I think that if people are coming at you for the suggestion of keeping teaspoons in the shower, they need to go get a hobby, okay? But the truth is that your level of specificity is far and beyond, I think, what most people would do and would be willing to do. But it's good advice, because when I talk with a lot of my clients and when I do virtual sessions with people over the phone or over FaceTime or whatever, we talk about generally like coins or fruit in terms of the size of a blob. But remember that everybody's like, there are lots of different sizes of strawberries. There are little tiny baby strawberries. There are really, really big strawberries sometimes, right? And I mean, like a nickel, a dime, a quarter, those are all pretty normal. But if the person that I'm chatting with is in Australia, they're certainly not going to have the same visual that I am for something like that. And when you think about what that looks like in your palm, that's a flat shape. Well, let's talk about the product. Is it a fluffy product? Is it a very thin, watery, viscous product? Is it a really thick product? Those things really matter when you think about viscosity of a product and how much space it takes up in your hand. And also we have different hand sizes. I have got little extra small baby hands. A lot of my clients have much larger hands. And so to them, it just isn't going to really matter the same way. I don't know how to say that, but they're just not going to see it the same way that I am. So giving someone a level of specificity to go out and buy a cheapy set of measuring spoons from the dollar store is not a bad idea if they're trying to nail down how much product they need to be using. Because yes, to your point, and I'm so glad that you made it, early on when I was seeing a lot of really new clients, I have a lot of repeat clients now, when I was seeing, and everybody was new, almost the number one problem that they had, I had almost forgotten about this, was not using enough product. They were frizzy because they weren't using enough leave-in conditioner or any at all. They weren't using enough cream or any at all if their hair really needed it. And they certainly were not using enough gel, because I think when you start wearing your hair wavy from straight, as many of us have done, the idea of putting something on our wet hair feels icky and horrible. Why am I putting mayonnaise on my wet hair? This is the grossest thing I've ever done, right?
Or
it's
gel, which tends to look like snot. It looks like
yes.
boogers. Why do we want to put this in our hair?
Right. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So, yes, get used to tracking how much you've used. I would tell people from the beginning, keep notes.
Yeah.
Keep notes. Just write a note. This was a good hair day. This is what I did. This was a bad hair day. This is what I did. And you will nail down the sources of your frizz. And if you haven't, Courtney and I both have resources to help you. I know that she has a download on her website that is a frizz free guide, a frizz free roadmap. I have on my website a quiz. If you take that quiz, it'll email you the results, and then you will automatically get emailed my frizz flowchart where you can diagnose your frizz, and there's some solutions in there. So if frizz is your nemesis and you want to know what kind of frizz you have, we both have resources to help you. I hope you go seek them out. They are free.
Yes, absolutely. I thought of one more thing about curl retention, and something that kind of changed the game for me was adding a thin layer of hairspray to my hair right after I plopped it and right before I started diffusing. And then if it's a particularly like, okay, I tried a new gel, it appears to be a light hold gel. Oh my goodness, the flyaways are flying away everywhere. I'm seeing so much frizz after I'm done diffusing. Adding another thin layer of hairspray right after diffusing while the hair is still in the cast has helped increase wash day retention for me.
Amazing. And I have a lot of clients that swear that hairspray is a very important part of the routine. And spraying hairspray on wet hair for a lot of people also is like, wait, what? You want me to do what? But it's almost like a light layer of gel. There are spray gels out there. If you think hairspray is icky and you don't want to use that, there are spray gels out there that may work for you. I know that Jessie Curl has a spray gel, I think it's called Gelibration spray. They also have a hairspray that is excellent and silicone and yucky ingredient free. Colt and King, which is a brand that I really love, they have a product called Set Spray, which is like a hairspray, a texture spray, and a heat protectant. All had a baby if you like that kind of thing, and it smells really good. Do you have any hairsprays that are your favorite, Courtney?
I really like a couple. Unfortunately, I don't have any super cheap, affordable options that I've tried that I like. I've tried the alcohol-free hairsprays from the drugstore, and they all make my hair feel really, really gross. The ones that I do like are Curlsmith Flawless Finish Hard Hold. It's drying alcohol-free, yucky ingredient-free for the most part. But if you want the big guns, the crispy of crispy curls, all of the hold forever and always, Bounce Curl Hairspray ridiculously locks my hair in, and it is sulfate silicone and drying alcohol free.
Amazing. It's good to know what those are because there are some icky hairsprays out there. But I will say, if you are a hairspray gal, invest in a good hairspray because you're not going to use it all that often. We're talking like 2 or 3 sprays on
Yep.
your wash day. So
Yep.
most of you probably are not washing your hair every single day. Some of you might be, and that's totally fine. But you might be using this product like 2 or 3 times a week. Not a big deal. A file's going to last you forever. So invest in good products. It will go a long way.
So let's talk about the last kind of frizz that I had in my brain, which was wet frizz. You touched on it a bit, talking about the loop-de-loops. But in my personal experience, wet frizz, so you've washed your hair, you've organized your curl clumps, you've applied the styling product to your soaking wet hair or damp hair, and you're looking at it and you're seeing a ton of frizz. That is wet frizz. And that can be caused by several different things. First thing being buildup. You didn't adequately cleanse your hair. So there's some buildup interfering with the performance of your gel. Or it could be that you didn't have enough water in your hair when you applied the gel to it. That is when I personally see tons of wet frizz on me. When I try and damp style, it's going to be stringy, it's going to be frizzy, there's going to be wet frizz.
Damp styling, it does the same for me, absolutely. And mostly I find that that frizz is not necessarily halo frizz. It's in the ends, the length of my hair, that it seems to almost like it's like a broom, like it's like an old broom. It's all splintered at the bottom, and it just looks like it didn't. The words I use are like come together. It didn't all come together. It didn't gel. And yes, 100%. I echo everything that you are saying. Do we want to answer a few questions down here on the side? I think we've got a few pretty good ones. I'm going to pop this one up. It's a long one, but I saw this one. I was like, it's not really related to Frizz, but it's an interesting question. So not Morgan, I wonder who you are then, but you're not Morgan. She says, I have been seeing the same stylist for 20 plus years. That is wonderful. And your stylist appreciates that very much. And I just went wavy. I'm a 2B-ish gal. Is there a kind way I can address with my stylist that I need her to learn to cut wavy hair? So when you say that you're a 2B-ish gal, that means that it's a looser wave. It's more in line with what Courtney and our hair looks like. If you've ever seen us on YouTube or on Instagram, it's a looser wave pattern. And man, that's a really tricky question. I would be curious what you have to say about this, Courtney, because you're not in this world yet, but I find that most stylists, especially if your stylist has been doing this for 20 plus years and you've been seeing her for 20 plus years, okay, I have so many thoughts. I'm like, where do I start? The first one is that she's comfortable doing hair a certain way. And she might be interested. You might gauge her interest first in just dry cutting. I find that dry cutting is a really good way for a stylist to just learn how to cut and blend, because wavy hair generally needs a lot of blending because there are different curl patterns doing different things. If she's too scared to cut dry, she probably isn't going to want to learn or be brave enough or interested enough to learn how to cut hair a totally different way. If she's open to that and she wants to try it, she might seek out some online training. I'm working on an online course for stylists. There are other courses. There's Curly Hair Artistry. There's Rizzo. There's Diva Curl. There's so many different organizations where she could get training. She could travel to them. A lot of times they travel around the country, and she might want to find out about that and do that training through them. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do in person or online if the opportunity is there. So you're going to have to gauge her interest and decide if she's interested or you're willing to move on and try somebody else and see if you get something that you like. And if it doesn't work out, maybe you go back to your stylist. Loyalty is a big thing, and I totally understand how valuable that is. So I'd never tell you to ditch your stylist and move on. But sometimes if you're going a different direction, it might be helpful to see what else is out there. What are your thoughts?
I wish I had your perspective as a stylist. I don't yet. And here is my thoughts, and I'm curious to hear what you think about it. If you've been going to the same stylist for 20 years, I'm going to bet that y'all kind of get along and y'all kind of enjoy each other. Because I know when I've sat in a chair of somebody who was really grumpy, it was very difficult to be in that chair, and I didn't go back. So like, I kind of have to sort of like the person who's behind the chair. So I'm going to say that you enjoy this person because of y'all's long-term relationship. I would share with her your excitement about your waves, that you are so excited that your hair has kind of gone wavy and you're needing some help with the haircut, some support with the haircut in order to encourage these waves to shine through because you're happy about it.
What do you think about dry cutting? I've noticed that this part of my hair is wavy, but this part is a little bit straighter. Is there something that we could do to like maybe minimize the straight parts and accentuate or highlight the wavy bits? Like those are the kinds of ways you might sort of phrase that question, because man, a 20-year like relationship, like you guys might not be friends that see each other outside of her salon or studio, but I guarantee you that she looks forward to seeing you every time that you come in, because 20 years is a long time. And when someone is touching your head and massaging your scalp and working on your hair and like talking to you about your kids and you're seeing them grow up over 20 years, like that kind of thing, like that is a meaningful relationship. So I would try to feel that out before I would go sailing in other waters for sure, or schedule a virtual conversation with someone like myself or with Courtney to get maybe some of those words that you can use to get that conversation started. And then maybe not tell her that you talked to us. That kind of thing doesn't always go over very well. Yeah. But it gives you vocabulary. So hopefully this has been a good start in giving you some vocabulary to use to jump in to that conversation. I thought that was a good but tricky one. And I know a lot of people have that question. So I just wanted to pop it up there.
I love it. Allison, would you like to go over our old hair analysis real
I
quick?
think we should. I think that we should dive into those really quickly because here's something to know, guys. They are old, they are out of date. But if you've ever been interested in doing a hair analysis, and what is a hair analysis? Mind you, a hair analysis is going to tell you about the properties of your hair. Is the texture fine, medium, or coarse? It's not really going to tell you about your curl pattern so much. That's something for you to figure out on your own. But is the texture fine, medium, or coarse? What is the overall porosity, high or low? It's not really going to tell you so much about your density because that's the number of hairs like within a square inch on your head, very specifically. But is it thick? Do you have a lot of hairs? Do you have very few hairs? So this is going to dive into those two, generally with suggestions about what you can do to make your hair better, and sometimes with product suggestions, depending on the company and if that person doing the analysis has some favorites.
So skimming through this, this is what your hair looked like under the microscope in 2017.
Those little squiggly lines, if you're watching them, those are your cuticle, if that's not obvious.
Yeah, and it looks like you had low porosity. Look at that. They're laying down really nice and smooth. Beautiful.
Nice and flat. And I love, see, look at that one, how that changed. When you went to that next one, you can see like sort of a flat view of this particular one. Now, this one was done by a woman who I don't believe is doing hair analysis anymore. She used to have a business on, I want to say it was Etsy, called Goose Footprints. She still does have a wonderful blog. Her name is Wendy, and I have like promoted her for years. I don't even know if she knows that I exist. Well, she does because she did my hair analysis, but she doesn't know that I'm talking about her. So her website is the Sciency Hair Blog. And I think she has always got some wonderful insights about hair. She is a scientist. She has a microscope, clearly, but she loves to just like dive into hair. What does it do? How does it work? Why does it do the things it does? And so for a while there, she offered hair analysis. I cannot remember what it cost. I want to say maybe it was $100 or $150. I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly back in the day. Post COVID, it would probably be twice that now, but who knows? Courtney and I did dig deep and find a couple companies that will do that for you now. I don't know what their costs are, but the ones that we found were strandprint.com. And if you're watching, you can see that on your screen. It's strand, like a hair strand, print.com. And the other one that we found was hairknowhow.com. So that's hair, K-N-O-W, how.com. But looking at my hair analysis, it was so nice that Wendy gave me that flat view and that side view so you could see how my cuticle was standing up. And I feel like just having that insight and seeing it up close was so exciting. And I loved learning that my hair actually back in the day, it might still be this way, was 60% coarse. I don't really identify, as I told you earlier, Courtney, a coarse haired person, but because coarse hair can sometimes feel wiry, but she's looking at actual microns of a measure in terms of how thick each hair strand is. And then I had a mix of medium and fine strands, and all of us are going to have a predominant hair type. So Courtney, what did yours say? Did yours surprise you back in the day? Mine I found to be surprising in some ways. How about you?
I loved my main bio. They are the sweetest humans. They are no longer doing hair analysis either, but they're incredible. They were curly girls and they made curly hair product recommendations based on the results of the hair analysis. Now, before we get into my results, I do want to say that when I did my hair analysis, I was 100% convinced that I had medium to high porosity hair, because my hair would get soaked really pretty quickly. It diffused in under an hour. I thought, okay, I've got medium to high porosity hair. I sprayed the Flairosol mister on my hair and the droplets would stay for like 0.2 seconds and then absorb into my hair. I tried it on my sister and the water would just stay and stay and stay on her hair. I was like, okay, my sister's low porosity, but I must be medium to high porosity based on all these things. And I was convinced that using a shampoo that was sulfate free could still be very, very clarifying. That I did not have any buildup on my hair. It was perfectly buildup free. I cleansed it beautifully before sending in the sample. I knew I was sending in a super clean, non-conditioned hair sample because that's what they requested. And the results were that I had low porosity at the root, low porosity at the midshaft, and low porosity at the tip, which apparently is very unusual. My mind was utterly blown. My world was rocked. Turns out that your hair can absorb water quickly and still be low porosity because I had 60% fine hair, so mostly fine hair, and 40% medium width or medium.
Okay. Interesting. How did that change how you took care of your hair?
It completely changed how I took care of my hair. They said that I had some buildup on my hair. And I was like, how is that possible? I used this shampoo. And they said, well, it contains sodium C14, C16, olefin sulfonate as the surfactant. Because you're dealing with some oily buildup, you need to be using shampoos that contain a sulfate every so often because that surfactant removes the oil buildup better.
So you learned so much from this, not just about how to treat your hair, but just about formulation in general. I mean, I think this is a wonderful thing to do for your hair if you're feeling lost and confused and you talk to your stylist. Maybe you've talked to somebody in a virtual consultation, you've tried all the products and you like don't know what else to do. I think this is a really worthwhile thing to do because it will change the way you see your hair and help you learn things that you would not have even thought about. So I recommend them. I think they're really helpful. But at the same time, I will say this, if it's not in your budget to do that, or you're just not, you're not convinced that you want to spend the money on that, you don't think it's going to do anything for you. If you're someone who's interested enough to even consider that, to be listening to this podcast, to be like on the interwebs, like listening to wavy hair stuff, you're already doing more than the vast majority and taking great care of your hair. And maybe you're not fully on the right track yet, but you're certainly getting there and you're doing your best. So I'm proud of you.
There were a couple of questions kind of directed at me because I am refusing to pull my hair back this year, or I'm trying really hard not to. Since I'm avoiding the pineapple, what am I doing at night? I am still majorly in the experimentation phase. I'm trying a bunch of different things. Recently, I tried this thing. Where did you buy the new hair sleeve with the strings? What's it called? I used a kind of a buff type situation from Bam Bon, Bambonn, and it's made in the UK. It's a buff. You put it on your head, pull the tube of fabric up, but there's two strings on the end, like ribbon, and you fold the buff over and then tie the strings and it stays really secure. So far, that has been the best thing that I've tried. I've also just tried laying my hair on my pillow, draping it out behind me, but I'm too much of a wild sleeper for that. That did not work at all.
I'm going to have to check out the Bam Bon buff. I've never liked those, but I love the idea of it as a almost like a hair towel without having to elongate it and twist it and do all the things. So that is very interesting to me. I'm going to have to look at that one.
And then, is there an alternative to My Main Bio? I was so sad they were no longer in business. At least I checked, or last I checked. So the other two hair analysis that we have found, I found standprint.com, and they have like 3 different tier levels of hair analysis at different price points, which I thought was really nice. And Allison found hairknowhow.com, which is another place that is doing the hair analysis in 2025.
They talk about how they can help with challenges like frizz, support with a clinical diagnosis, which is interesting. They also offer trichology services. A trichologist is actually a scientist of the hair and scalp. You have to get a certificate in the United States to be considered a trichologist. In the UK, you actually have to go to school for a couple years to become a trichologist. So the fact that they can help with clinical diagnoses and scalp issues, greasy hair, thinning hair, slow growing hair, dry hair, What else? Increased hair breakage products. I think that's pretty interesting and amazing. So they might be one to look at as well. So some resources for you guys. We're not sponsored by them. We just did a quick Google search and then made sure that they didn't look too shady and made sure that we shared them with you guys. So I hope that is helpful if you guys are considering doing a hair analysis. We certainly loved ours. We learned a lot, and it wouldn't be something I do over and over again, but it was definitely something that helps me move forward in my journey towards healthier hair.
Absolutely. When I was looking at Stand Print, I was making sure that they did something similar to what My Main Bio used to do. They seem like they're pretty cool.
Cool. I love that. Okay, we're entering the product spotlight segment before we hop off for the evening. Courtney, product spotlight, what have you got? What's your fave?
We are basically the same person. We are both holding up hair dryers. I will talk about Leif-In real quick. As somebody who creates content on the internet, I've had the opportunity to try way too many hair dryers, and I have had the pleasure of working with Leif-In. Actually, it can be fun working with brands like Leif-In. I still love this product a lot. It is the most lightweight hair dryer I have ever used. With my rheumatoid arthritis, if I'm having a flare, my hands hurt terribly, my shoulders hurt terribly, and having a super lightweight dryer option that's incredibly powerful. It has all the bells and whistles. It checks the temperature of the dryer 100 times per second to make sure that it's not overheating. It has ionized airflow. It's really quiet. The decibels of it are much lower. It does all the stuff and things that I need, and it doesn't have the Dyson price tag of.
But it is a Dyson dupe. So if any of you are wondering what this dryer looks like, it looks like the older Dyson Supersonic. It doesn't have the actual hole at the back that the Dyson Supersonic does, but its attachments are still magnetic. And I am dying to try one. I actually just ordered that dryer yesterday.
What?
I know. I didn't want to tell you that earlier because I wanted that look on your face. So I'm super excited about it. They're doing a Valentine's Day special right now. Again, not sponsored. I just happened to need a dryer because my Dyson died on Tuesday. And the reason I'm still holding this up in my product spotlight is because I love and adore this dryer. And I did a YouTube video that I need to revisit now that I have some perspective. I formerly told people like I wouldn't buy this dryer because like as a consumer because I feel like I don't like the controls being on the back for the consumer. I feel like the consumer version, they should be on the front where your thumb is. It's really hard to use your fingers on the side. And so I don't love that. I feel like they should be right here on every consumer version. But for me as a stylist, when I've got this turned towards someone, it makes so much sense to have it where my thumb is always because we have opposable thumbs. Isn't that a gift from God? So my Dyson, I want to say, I could look it up, but I can't remember exactly what month, but definitely in early to mid 2019. So I have had this Pro dryer that has been used multiple times a week on anywhere from 2 to 8 heads of hair a day for 6 years. I am not mad about that. I know other people will complain that their Dysons died really early. Mine lasted a long time, so I had a really good experience with it. I cleaned the filter often, like every single day. I would deep clean it like once a week. So, and I never wrapped the cord around the machine. I always let it wind naturally. So it's like a former like audio tech person. That's a story for another time. I know how to like let the cord wind naturally. That is so important because it really matters how it gets electricity from the wall to the unit, right? So you've got to take care of your expensive equipment, which I did, but it died on Tuesday. And I thought to myself, that's okay. It's not ideal, but this is my opportunity to bust out my old dryer with my orchid gigantic mama diffuser. We're going to bring her back. It's going to be a great day. And by the end of the day, Wednesday, I've been using this dryer for 1 day now on just 3 clients. My shoulders, my hands, everything hurt so much that I was like, I need another Dyson and I need it right now. But I bought a Leif-In because it is a dupe for sure. I don't know how long the cord is. I will say the pro version of the Dyson dryers right now, they have the R. That has an almost 11-foot cord. That makes a huge difference from a pro version. You'll have to measure, it's probably about 9 feet. I would guess that the Layfin cord is about 8 to 9 feet. And I have brought my personal Dyson to my studio to use this week. It has a 9-foot cord. And I can tell you that extra almost 2 feet makes a huge difference in not strangling a client or being able to get from the wall around the chair and around somebody's head. So the longer cord makes a huge difference. So I will be ordering another Dyson, probably the Dyson R, which is the professional version. But for right now, I have a Layfin coming by the end of the month. That should be in a week or so. And when it'll be my backup dryer, my kids will use it. It was only like $100, which I know is still a lot for a dryer. But I'm so glad to hear your glowing review of it because I got one on the way. I can't wait to play.
And I personally have a Dyson here at my home, a professional Dyson. And the dryer that I reach for is the Layfin. It is more lightweight. It is more quiet. It does actually dry my hair faster. I've done them side by side in my sciencey brain experiments and had the Layfin always dries my hair faster.
The question remains, how would a dryer like that, and I'm going to be testing this, hold up in a salon setting? I spoke to the people in the Austin support location, just the nicest people, to see if they could fix this. And they were like, I'm not supposed to diagnose over the phone, but that particular issue, it has no heat. It'll still blow air, but no heat. And she said, I can't fix that. That's not fixable for what we need to do. So my heart was broken. But she had a lot of other good things to tell me because I was considering getting a consumer version to use. And she said the consumer versions of dryers generally, and I'll speak to this for the Dyson ones, they're just not made of the toughest stuff. They're meant to be used for like a blowout, maybe like 4 to 5 times a week, not 4 to 5 times a day for 4 to 5 days in a row. And so they just won't last as long. So I will report back on how the Layfin performs in studio until I order a new expensive professional machine that is just built with a filter that is designed to keep hair product, bits of tiny hair like that you can't really see from getting in the filter. So we're going to do a little experiment, but I spotlighted this because I realized that I couldn't live without it. And I love it so much. And I think it's so funny that we basically reached for the same thing. Courtney, I swear, I think we're related. It was so fun to do this with you tonight. Thank you so much for coming to jump on here tonight. This is always so much fun. I enjoy doing this with you on Fridays, and we've got next Friday to look forward to. Do we have anything in particular that we want to bring up? I see a couple of really interesting questions that have popped up. One of these, I'll just pop it up really quick, is the idea of the DIY haircut and tips for those of us who want to stretch out their trims.
It sounds like this needs to be the topic for the next episode.
I feel like that we could really dive into that one. So that could be really, really fun.
Well, thank you guys so much. Each and every single one of y'all who hung out with us live. We love getting to chat with y'all in the comments and answer some of your questions live. It seems like this is really helpful, and we're just really grateful that we get to do it with y'all.
So grateful for you guys. Have the best weekend. We will be distributing this podcast momentarily. So if you are not the kind who likes to watch a whole video over again and you want to listen to it on the go, maybe there were some nuggets of information you need to hear one more time, we can help you with that. So check it out. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon. It's in all the podcast platforms. So thanks again, guys. We are Two Wavy Girls on the internet, and we are so thankful you're here. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye, guys.